you all for being here today. Excited to share with you our night, our on-night 5G in the XR future. My name is Gavin Newton-Tanzer. I will be your host today. Today, just a couple of quick brief announcements. So we are always excited when people tune in for our on-nights. We do host them in person as well as online all around the world. So thank you for paying attention. For those of you, of course, that are not joining in online, we do have our USA conference. We're excited to bring everyone back for a second time during COVID. So excited to have this meetup on June 1st through the 3rd. Really do hope to see you there in person. Of course, we always like everyone to join us and connect with us on social as well. So for similar events to today, as well as many other updates on our weekly spatial newsletter and social, please feel free to follow us. We also, for those that are still getting their feet wet in the industry, we do have a number of webinars and training courses in the Academy, which I encourage everyone to check out as well. And even in something close to my heart, something I'm very involved with, AWE Asia would love to have everyone who can tune into that event. It will be live streaming, of course, a very dynamic event in person as well. So with those special announcements, I really do want to say thank you to Meta, which has helped us many times in sponsoring this event and making these types of content available for the AWE community. So greatly appreciate it. So with that, I would like to dive into what today is going to be a very dynamic conversation. Now, we've talked about 5G and XR in the past, but this time I think what makes it unique is we really have a number of diverse perspectives coming at it from a number of different angles. And I think that's one of the things we're really going to emphasize today. So with that, I'm going to allow each of my panelists to do a quick 1-minute intro, let them tell you a little bit about themselves, and we'll dive into our first couple rounds of questions. So with that, Julia Biabo, CEO and Creative Director of Novabee, please start us off.
Yeah, hi. So as Gavin said, my name is Julia. I'm the CEO and Creative Director of Novabee. We are a AR studio and digital art production company. So we create experiences for our clients as well as content for other people as well. And we really specialize in what we call augmented reality placemaking. So we love transforming spaces into places that are meaningful to people and bring them joy using AR, mobile phone-based AR in particular. So that's kind of what we're up to. We're based in Seattle and San Francisco, so mostly the West Coast, but as everybody knows, it's an extremely international industry. So we are working with folks all around the world and doing projects all around the world every day.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Julia. Sarah, I am also joined here with Sarah Galarski, Global Head of Telco Partnerships at Niantic. Please tell us a bit more about your work.
Yeah, hi everyone. It's great to be here. So I manage telecom partnerships for Niantic. You probably know us mostly as the makers of Pokemon Go. We're an AR company. A lot of that is games, of course, thinking about Pokemon Go, Pikmin Bloom, Ingress, many other games that we're excited to share someday. But we're also an AR platform company, and we have the LightChip ARDK to allow developers and creators to start making their own versions of AR games and experiences, just like Pokemon Go. So I'm very excited to be here, interested in 5G and all that it can do for our games, and looking forward to hearing from the rest of the panelists.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. Also joined with Joshua Ness, Senior Manager at 5G Labs at Verizon.
Hey, everyone. How's it going? Yeah, I'm Josh. To reiterate, Senior Manager at Verizon 5G Labs. It's a great team, a great part of the organization that is charged with essentially predicting the future. Our goal is to look into all of the different ways that 5G is going to be used to change the way that we live, work, and play. And so much of that involves immersive experiences across a wide variety of industries. And so we've done some work with even including some of the folks on this panel and some other organizations to explore with those partners different ways that 5G is going to be used to enhance experiences and create new experiences. And so things like mixed reality, extended reality, Web3. These are things that are that I'm passionate about, that are close to my heart. So I'm actually coming to you on the tail end of South by Southwest Interactive from Austin, Texas. I'm traditionally based in New York City, headed back pretty much after this talk, but I've had a great time here this past week, learning all about and hearing all about all the new and exciting ways that XR and other immersive technologies are going to impact our lives.
That's awesome. Yeah, wish we were there, but glad that you were able to share with us anyway. Taku Sasaki, Manager of Corporate Business Strategy at Seksui Chemical.
Yeah, hi everyone. So my name is Taku Sasaki. So Manager of Corporate Business Strategy from Seksui Chemical. Anyways, I really appreciate to join this event as a panelist. I appreciate Gavin, AWE, and also Meta. So my company, Seksui Chemical, is a Japanese chemical materials company. So especially for plastic and polymers. For example, in 5G, XR, like the plastic molding body parts, adhesive, optical film, and so on. So therefore, so today I want to join, and also I want to talk about the based on material science side for 5G and XR topics. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. Looking forward to it. Jonathan Waldern, CTO of Metamaterials.
Yeah, hi, everybody. So Taku there, we're working at the front line of advanced material science, and in particular, constructing metamaterials. I've had many years in AR and VR development. And what we're doing is bringing metamaterials and capabilities to our technology in new devices, new glasses style form factor glasses that embed materials inside the lenses themselves so that we can drive functionality and integrate it, et cetera. So we're really bringing metamaterials to augmented reality in that respect.
Awesome. Kevin Wang, Senior Product Strategy Lead at NTT Docomo.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Gavin. Super excited to be here for the panel and also interacting with industry leaders on this particular topic. Very exciting topic for sure. So yeah, my name is Kevin and based here in the Bay Area, and I'm currently a product strategy lead with NTT Docomo, which is Japan's largest wireless carrier. So NTT Group is a large conglomerate based in Japan, but the Docomo brand is the wireless carrier brand underneath that. And our group right now is focusing on developing 5G and XR device innovation, as well as leading partnership efforts for the product department within the company. Just wanted to highlight a few notable partnerships that we have worked on and also announced at this point are the partnership with Magic Leap, as well as very recently a partnership jointly with Qualcomm on XR sort of the development in the chipset space. So super excited about this panel and really looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And last but not least, Yi Xu, Director of XR Technology at Oppo.
Thank you, Gavin. Hi, my name is Yi. I oversee Oppo's activities on XR, including strategic planning, product development, and also advanced research in the XR space. Oppo is a leading cell phone manufacturer based in China. So I'm based in Palo Alto, California, but most of my team are based in China, Shenzhen, Shanghai. So we have been developing AR glass prototypes and the products for more than 3 years now. We have developed a standalone AR glass prototype, and also a split design, which uses the cell phone as a CPU and the GPU and interaction device, etc. Last year, we developed a smart glass solution we call Oppo Air Glass. We now are selling that device in China in limited quantities. Really excited to be on the panel today and looking forward to have a great discussion with other panelists. Thank you for having me.
Excellent. And so as everyone can see, we have a very diverse set of voices here, from creators to the teleco networks themselves, to the materials that enable it, to also including a little bit of hardware. So I'm really hoping everyone can kind of chime in and really express from your own perspective where this is going to be taking us going forward. So excited to share that. So as we do that, I'm going to go ahead and open up so we can have a more open conversation. I think we can kind of begin with the telco, because 5G networks to going to actually kind of emerge. I'd love to to hear from NTT Docomo and Verizon on sort of how that progress is coming along. So Josh, let's put you in the hot seat to begin. So Verizon, you're leading a team determining best use cases for 5G, as you said, envisioning the future. Tell us a bit, at least from Verizon's perspective, what that 5G future looks like.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's one that a lot of people are asking. It's getting written about a lot about how the carriers like Verizon and others internationally are investing dollars in infrastructure in the airwaves themselves to build out this 5G foundation. The way that we're looking at it is. And the way that the industry is looking at it is building out those capabilities so that those new applications have a solid foundation to land on, and we're already seeing that happen. We're already seeing that these connectivity capabilities are already powering XR experiences in industries that are more leaning enterprise, but will very, very quickly transition to consumer. So we've already seen it in the medical space, in things like telehealth, in things like sports, where we've exhibited some of these capabilities at like the Super Bowl and things like that. But we're starting to see it now in even the AR space. Just recently, I think yesterday, we announced a partnership with an organization called 30 Ninjas to develop a new AR game called Helios. And this is going to be an interactive AR game that allows users to interact with the environment around them. Sarah mentioned the game Ingress that she and her team and the folks over in her organization have worked on. It's going to be, I think, a little similar to that, but we'll have to wait and see what the finished product looks like. So I think it's a matter of like laying that foundation so that when these applications and when the hardware continues to evolve, there is a solid foundation of connectivity to power these experiences, because I think the last thing anybody wants is for innovators to have really great ideas and begin to build those, but then have connectivity be the barrier. So we want to make sure that connectivity is not the barrier and really open the doors for innovation on top of that.
Awesome. That's excellent. Yeah, that's a great way to get started. And it sounds like a little bit of friendly competition with future games, but that's awesome. Let's take it from a slightly different perspective. So Kevin, what are you, as the largest carrier in Japan, what is NTT Docomo doing that's maybe different, similar to what you're seeing with US carriers, as much of our audience is coming from the US today or in Europe? And how are you seeing this moving forward with 5G?
For sure. Yeah, I would love to chime in a little bit from the international perspective. So maybe I'll talk about the adoption of wireless and 5G overall, and also XR separately, but they're also definitely related. So one thing I would like to highlight is that in the Japanese market, due to the sort of the proximity, right, just the market, the physical buildings and how close they are, in most cities, carriers actually taking a wireless first approach when they're rolling out broadband. So adoption of a wireless is actually faster, and one could argue that the transition to 5G is a bit more advanced than what we see here in the US. And that's one large component, as I mentioned, and everyone can probably see, is the sort of the proximity of the customers, of the buildings, and of the you got less area to cover, right? Or it's more dense from a coverage perspective. So that's the adoption of 5G, and adoption of XR is actually equally strong, I would say. And as NTT or as Docomo, we actually have already pushed out a number of commercial XR products in the consumer space. And what we're trying to do is actually, position XR not as a single device experience, but as a combined physical and a virtual experience. So just to highlight as one example, one of the products that we have pushed out, it's actually commercial, and you can purchase if you are part of the Docomo network. It's a concert package for for concert goers. So for example, if you go to a concert in Japan and it's affiliated with our program, you can purchase directly from Docomo a concert ticket to go there. But what you also get is almost like a memorabilia of sort. It's a physical set of products and items that's tailored to that particular concert. So for example, if you go to a rock concert, you will get a almost like a collector's package of guitar picks. And what those serve is actually as 8R markers that once you put on your desk, you can actually take your AR glass and look at those guitar picks, and you'll see your Rock Band, members kind of playing on top of those guitar picks. So it's really by combining these physical and also virtual experiences together, I think we have seen some success in terms of pushing the XR solutions into the consumer space. So overall, we're very excited about the combination of 5G and XR. Obviously, a lot more, we believe a lot more could be done, but we're starting to see some of the, I would say, the commercial interest from the consumer space for both technologies.
Yeah, that's fantastic, particularly because I know most of the panel is either New York or the Bay Area. That's consolidation in metro areas clearly is something we're seeing play out here too, though hopefully we do see more of sort of a spread of that technology goes on. And fantastic to hear about those consumer experiences, which we'll come back to later. But yeah, we're really excited to see the blossoming of consumer experiences like the gaming that Josh mentioned. But as we talk about sort of these experiences, great time to transition over to you, Julia. So I know Novabee done a great deal of work with location-based XR experiences. I believe many of them are consumer experiences. So tell us a little bit about sort of your experience and how you're thinking about 5G and how it's going to impact your work in the future.
Yeah. So this is an area that we are like super passionate about. So what we do is we work closely with communities actually to co-create mobile phone-based experiences that share their stories and histories using their neighborhoods and their public spaces as the canvas. So we're very much dealing in kind of a mixed reality space using mobile phone-based AR. And because we're dealing with public spaces, our content tends to be very spatially large and also data heavy and interaction rich. And so we're always like, hyper aware actually of the signal strength and the networks that we have available, and simultaneously designing and testing to those. And so while my inner engineer actually loves a good optimization problem, and that's kind of fun. We love that intersection of tech and stuff. My outer creator loves the freedom that my 5G phone and a good 5G signal gives me. And so I think, that's kind of what we would see as a big change as 5G gets rolled out in a more robust way and in more areas, really enabling us and our communities that we work with to expand and really bring their full creativity to fruition. We're already actually seeing kind of impact of 5G and where we don't have it. So, just recently, actually, we had to relocate an experience to an area where there was strong connectivity, because the download of the content either was just way too slow, people would have aborted, or wasn't happening at all. Like that was what was really interesting to me on some of my older phones. So we're always very in tune to the accessibility of our experiences. And that experience in particular, these kind of get to social issues and equity issues. And so because we had to relocate that content, we were actually moving it out of the neighborhood that it really fit and that told their story. You can look at it as an advantage that in some ways their story's getting, bigger play in a better area now, a more connected, more popular area. But, you run into these kind of equity issues, both at the technology level, but also in terms of cultural equity and access. So yeah. That's
a fantastic point, both on the fact that you're able to build that experience, but also that connectivity is an issue. So, I mean, this is a conversation where telco providers must be very much aware of and involved. And as these experiences get rolled out, it will definitely be rolled out in some areas sooner than others. And it'll be interesting to see what that does for consumer adoption for sure. Similarly, so Sarahniantic on the cutting edge, I think honestly probably can be credited for bringing AR to the mainstream. But specifically your work is working with telco. So how are you, as clearly connectivity to 5G is extremely important to AR-based games. How are you thinking about this? How are you engaging telco in sort of conversations and partnerships? What does this mean in your vision?
Yeah, telcos are really a fantastic partner for us. We're both really interested in optimizing outdoor experiences, and experiences that really relate back to our core mission, which is to get people outside, interacting with each other, with communities, with their spaces. And all of that really relies on a solid network. And when it comes to incorporating AR into those experiences, we need that low latency, we need the really high bandwidth, we need capacity for large events. We do a lot in the event space now. We just had a big Go Tour event with thousands of people in attendance around the world. And network's really important for programs like that. And especially when it comes to our vision for the future, when we're thinking about the real world metaverse, what AR overlaid onto our everyday experiences look like when it comes to experiences on AR glasses as well. 5G is hugely important for that. So we need to partner really closely with the telecom companies. And then on the telco side, I mean, they're obviously spending billions of dollars on spectrum, on infrastructure, on marketing, and they're really looking for fantastic partners like us and like Julia, who can create experiences that are going to take advantage of those networks. And it's a really hard question to answer because people are building for the networks that they have today, and 5G is just being rolled out. But together, it's really an amazing opportunity for us to team up and advance the world and the ecosystem forward. And then people like Julia, like our game makers, like Josh mentioned, that 30 Ninjas game, that's exactly the kind of stuff that we want to be out there. And that's why we're building the LightChip platform. So LightChip is our ARDK. It's meant to take the tools that I think I already mentioned that are used to make Pokemon Go and give them to creators so they can make their own games, make their own experiences, make the next Pokemon Go. And we need to partner really closely with the telecoms to optimize that platform so that those AR realities can come true.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. Really, I love the idea of sort of the ecosystem because we're seeing so much of that in this conversation too. So the creators have to make content that consumers want. The networks have to make that content work and make it accessible. There's a third part to that, though, is we need the materials that enable the telco providers to have sufficient ability to make those things work. So Jonathan, tell us a little bit about what that means from your perspective, the technology I know you're working on at Stanford and helping us power these faster 5G networks.
Yeah, so we're pretty much at the forefront of implementing metamaterials in the broad community, and especially in AR or in infrastructure that impacts AR applications. And specifically, one of the products that we've launched and working closely on now bringing it out in mass production is a unique type of film that can passively reflect 5G signal. Many of the audience may not be aware that 5G has specific penetration challenges, especially through glass or through buildings. Yes, it brings fantastic low latency, high bandwidth signal, which is exactly what we want for AR to enjoy and have more real time and offload a lot of computational power into the cloud. We need that connectivity, but the reality is penetrating buildings and other everyday dark spots in the transmission of 5G make it a big challenge. And we're seeing that in the rollout, and with time, of course, that will improve. What we do is make a unique type of passive film that can help reflect that signal into those dark areas to ensure maximum coverage, that can reflect signals down through buildings to ensure that there is low latency and very high coverage in those buildings. So these unique type of materials are contributing to this challenge of getting 5G into the community, and specifically will impact AR and AR's growth and development by virtue of making that available near term.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I know that personally. Just in parts of my house, I'm getting connection with 5G very differently. Might have to look at what that means for consumers as well. But also, so Taku, so we talked a little bit earlier about Japan and how the significant consolidation of people in specific areas, such as Tokyo. And so how are you thinking about those material developments, I presume, in working with NTT Docomo and local carriers on the production of materials to allow 5G to work in such a dense urban area?
So I want to talk about the whole of the 5G and XR, this material side. So in 5G and XR, maybe so many new devices will be launched, like so AR glasses, head-mount display, IoT sensor, or new interface device like a globe, ring, etc. But I think one common technology with these. Since this is completely same as Jonathan, I guess it is metamaterial technology. For example, 5G. Sub-6 millimeter wave, and in futures, sub-terahertz, like that. Maybe our common normal material in the plastic, like as polystyrene, polyethylene, epoxy, etc. They can't reflect, absorb, and also control these radio waves. But so metamaterial technology, I mean, so including the material and also nano processing side, can add a new function to control the radio wave to the common material. Then one of the applications is completely same as Jonathan. For example, so our company Sekisui and Meta, now we are developing a radio wave reflector film by integrating our Sekisui's plastic material with Meta's innovative metamaterial structure processing. Then maybe this one is also can solve radio wave dead zone problem and also to increase the connectivity, as the panelists said.
Yeah.
And also, so metamaterial technology can be also be used for optical light control, so like holography, etc. to use AR glass head-mount display. Anyway,
Excellent.
again, yeah.
Well, thank you so much about that, Taku. So very excited to see that get applied. And that is an easy way, I think, to carry through to another major component of this ecosystem. So we're talking about mobile experiences and creative experiences for those through networks, but there's a huge component in head-mounted displays and augmented reality headwear and glasses as well. So E, very interested to hear sort of your perspective as you're thinking as a manufacturer of these smart glasses. How do you tie into this ecosystem, and how are you thinking about that for products like Oppo Air, of course in China, but eventually internationally as well?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So I believe the most important use case for AR is accessing information, like accessing information quickly, especially those informations that are really relevant to the user in terms of their geographic location or the situation user is in. So this really aligns with other panelists such as Julia and Sarah saying, right? So for example, right now when I go out on the street, I see a restaurant. What I need to do is to pull out my phone and launch an app, for example, Yelp or other my favorite apps, and I need to type in the restaurant's name, and then I will get the information with regarding to this restaurant. But with the augmented reality glass, right, in the future, when I see the restaurant, the system, or let's call this a metaverse or XR cloud, right, the system knows I might be interested in this restaurant. For example, I haven't had my lunch yet. I'm really interested in a certain cuisine. And then the system will display the relevant information of restaurant right in front of my eyes. And I can possibly interact with this information through some really fast interaction, such as hand gesture. I think this whole user experience will reduce the user friction. For example, you can reduce from 3 to 4 steps involving pulling out your phone and typing to a single click, right? All the information will be displayed instantly right there in front of us. And to have this user experience, I think we really need a good infrastructure, and not only on the communication side for the 5G network to be really fast, to have that all this information easily streamed to the glasses. We also need a really good location-based service. We need to have a kind of a map of the entire world, a city, a building, or inside the building. And also we need kind of a really intelligent backend that can understand my intention, my daily schedule, and everything. So we need all these ecosystem to come together to really be able to enable us to have that enjoyable experience.
Awesome. Yeah, it's exciting to see the energy, everything kind of pulling forward, eventually feeding into the future that we see with everyone sort of having those consumer smart glasses. So excited to see it. We'll talk a little bit more about sort of the deployment of those devices a little bit later on. At the moment, I want to allow our sponsor for today's event, Jonathan, to say a few words about what they're doing at Meta specifically, and then we're going to dive right back into this conversation and tie it into a few more of the questions we haven't yet had a chance to get to today. day. But Jonathan, please take it away.
Yeah, well, whilst I have the opportunity to just give some insight, at Meta, we're not only developing the Metamaterials, but as I mentioned earlier, we're incorporating them into glasses, into transparent lenses in that case. If you go to the next slide, I'll make this very quick. We have a whole roboticized process for making these prescription glasses. Prescription glasses are critical for the next generation development of AR glasses because everybody, or at least the majority of people, have some form of prescription. And within that context, by incorporating the functionality into the actual lens itself, we remove the need to have today's solutions, which is kind of lenses in lenses, so to speak, and actually integrate everything together. If you go to the next slide. And so in that context, as you can see here, there are many different types of functions and capabilities, such as electro-dimming, so that we can accommodate to the outside world. Why does that matter? Well, now you don't need to overcome the ambient light and spend all your bulk and spend all your energy on trying to make a display that can overlay we can simply dim the outside dynamically and in places that we need it, etc. There are many other examples. Next slide. These other examples include eye tracking, because we need eye tracking going forward in next generation AR so that we can implement foveated rendering. This is where we're only rendering at high resolution the image that you're actually looking at. But to have that eye slaving and have that interactivity, next slide, you actually need then high bandwidth. And this is really where 5G comes in, whether it's local in the room that you're actually, or the environment that you're actually using it in, or whether it's extended in terms of the overall communication infrastructure. You can see here some of the eye trackers that we've implemented. Next slide. And so in that context, we have this capability at Meta for implementing these metamaterials. These are nanoscale structures that can actually implement these applications and mass produce them roll to roll. And that's very important because we need this functionality and sophistication embedded in the lens, but at a price point that people ultimately can afford. Next slide. And so it is that the combination of these metamaterials, whether they're producing a 5G antenna in the lens itself, so you can have very good reception, whether it's reducing through a meta lens, a whole array of projection lenses to reduce the bulk in the eyeglass, or whether it's simply adding heating capability. So if you're wearing a mask, it doesn't heat up and dim over and can automatically keep it clear. So these are some of the functions by adding metamaterials into the lenses that we can really impact and drive AR development through to the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, it's incredible to think about what that's going to mean. I mean, for people like myself, I would like to be able to use the AR glasses of the future. Looks like Julia agrees with me, those of us in the glasses wearing community. So that's definitely exciting as well, of course, as well as connectivity and reflection. So I think that's a great way to kind of transition quickly back to telco and think about sort of what is the investment going to be and what's going to look like to help enable these technologies. So Kevin, I know NTT Docomo has made it their mission to be a world-leading developer of 5G networks in Japan, maybe exporting that technology internationally. What does that technological investment development look like for you in the next 3, 5, 10 years?
For sure, for sure. I'll talk about maybe some of the areas that our group is looking at, as well as where the firm is kind of investing into. I think overall, maybe stepping back a little bit, right? Because since we're talking about what it could look like for the next 5 to 10 years, overall, I think we do believe that most of the solutions are remaining to be created. But one trend and one thing that we do agree on, and we're trying to focus on, is that we see XR more of an experience rather than a single device or a single solution. So what that means is, as a carrier, obviously, smartphone is our main device that we carry, but it's XR as an experience will be fulfilled and delivered by multiple devices that will run on our network and other carriers' network overall. And that form of XR could be XR experience, AR experience on your smartphone, or through your XR glasses. And also there's some physical, sort of projection-based XR solutions we're looking at, which tie into more into the location-based XR experience, whether that's a projection or projector type of type of solution, or large display type of solution, right? We're looking at that as well. So we're looking at the XR experience as a continuum of experience that we're building. It doesn't have to be tied to a particular device. So overall, I think we're looking at a fairly transition-free type of world in the future, where user, whether it's you and I, can experience and have access to their data through multiple devices, regardless of which device they choose on. So that's what we're looking at in terms of how we're kind of thinking about XR as a overall concept for the next 5 to 10 years.
Awesome. And Josh, interesting to hear sort of your and Verizon's perspective on what this technology development looks like for you, particularly as I know that at least in the US, 5G is not yet available on many devices. It's just it's still sort of in the rollout phase. So how are you thinking about sort of deployment of different forms of technology to enable 5G solutions?
Yeah, it's a great question, Gavin. And to Kevin's point, like we're looking at experiences that are not only available for the devices that are here now, but also thinking about, like some of the other panelists have talked about, the devices that are going to be here for the future. And so we are working with partners like Niantic, like 30 Ninjas, like others, to create XR experiences that can be consumed now to give a taste of what those capabilities are, hoping that the builders of these technologies have an eye toward the future. And the way that we're setting them up for success there, not only as a company, but as an industry, is integrating 5G with new and advanced forms of compute. Things like edge compute, which 5G really facilitates and brings to life, will enable a lot of the data-intensive processes that traditionally have to be run on the device itself, thereby increasing its cost, increasing its form factor. Things like overheating, like I think Taco mentioned, offloading that into the network itself, thereby reducing latency, and then bringing the cost and the form factor down for some of those devices, getting to the future where we might be having things like headsets that can use computer vision to assess an environment around an individual, and then artificial intelligence also hosted in the edge, which can then make those personalized recommendations. So the future that he mentioned is I think going to come to fruition, come to pass a lot sooner than people think it is. And that's one thing that we're definitely seeing here as I've been here at South by Southwest. This is an area where people are very passionate. And so it's about the metaverse not being just a synonym for VR, but describing the spectrum across the smallest augmented reality experiences all the way through to deep immersive virtual reality, anything that is that spatial computing realm. And I think we're going to hopefully start seeing this referenced as spatial computing a little in the technical circles a little more frequently than we do right now. And 5G and edge computing really are going to enable those technologies. But I think you're right. Like for now, it's a matter of the phone, right? It's a matter of the 5G phone. Can we get 5G enabled devices into consumers' hands so that they can begin to see what those experiences look like? And then hopefully the OEMs, the hardware manufacturers, as well as the experience builders start having an eye toward the future about what is possible when we maybe one day don't all have this thing that we're tethered to all the time, when we can start having different types of devices that take advantage of the network and the in-network compute capabilities a little more efficiently. We're not there yet, but I think we're going to get there pretty quick.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thank you for that. And Sarah, so as Niantic, I think, timed it just right with Pokemon Go, right? And wasn't using 5G technology for the most part, and really kind of hit it strong. Is there a plan for really hitting the same thing, hitting it just right for the development of 5G technology, really helping it sort of take off the same way? And so how are you thinking about unlocking that next boom in sort of consumer adoption?
That is a really interesting question. And as you mentioned, 5G did not exist when Pokemon Go came out. You do not need really intensive technology or network architectures to make really cool games. I mean, Wordle is as basic as it comes, Tetris, and these are hugely popular games. But it's what I think makes the Niantic games a success is that they're more than just really cool. They're lifestyle games. They're a way of life. I am thinking about a conversation I just had yesterday with a friend who said he didn't want to go out to the Hamptons because there aren't enough Pokestops near his house. And so he's going to have to stay home because it would have ruined his streak. That's just how people think about these games. It's part of their everyday. They build their vacations, they build their afternoons around it, their interactions with their kids. And I think the more we lean into the real world interactivity of our games and the immersive layer of AR that will get you out and interacting with those spaces and interacting with your life in a way that feels comfortable to you, the more successful these games are going to be and the more interesting experiences will come out of it. And you also can't do all of that stuff without 5G, without really integrated technologies, without pushing the limits of connectivity and multiplayer. And that's where I think 5G is going to really kick off this wave of unique metaverse layer experiences. Because you can absolutely go out and make a fun game, but you're not going to make a game that's as part of your daily life as you can with these kinds of technologies.
Excellent. Yeah, no, excited for that first massive multiplayer simultaneous sort of AR experience. I know you guys are exploring that now already, but yeah, very cool to see how that goes. And Julia, so similarly, so Sarah talked about this as a lifestyle game impacting sort of just natural for people to kind of take out their phones, engage with these experiences. I would love to hear sort of your thoughts on that, and then also sort of not necessarily just for gaming, because I know you work with traditionally brands that pay for these experiences. They're some of the initial funders of a lot of these developments, at least in the consumer space. So how are you thinking about enabling these experiences, creating deeper impressions with the technology for brands and relevant consumer experiences?
Yeah, excellent question. And I just want to say, like, this is such a productive discussion. I'm like, here on so much questions said. Yes. And yeah, I'm learning things, especially in the materials sector there, Jonathan. Thank you. Although I'm thinking my prescription's going to get more expensive, but anyway, and actually, I'm just going to dovetail on one thing you said, Jonathan. One of the things, and I'm sure Sarah can appreciate this as well, given that we're both like, operating in the outdoor space. And so ambient light is actually a real issue, at least with our experiences. And nobody's really talking about that. Like it can make it, next to impossible sometimes on a really bright, beautiful day, which is when people want to be out and about to see the content. And so I'd love to see the kind of materials you're talking about, actually somehow how we could apply that to mobile today. To help address those issues. But I think we're very involved in what's called the Open AR Cloud Association. And so we're thinking all the time about kind of this three-legged stool of 5G, AR, cloud, and edge computing. And no one of those legs, the stool can't stand without any one of those legs, or we can't build the stool without any one of those legs. So they're all critically important. And getting us to what Sarah was talking about is kind of this fluid experience that people can move in and out. And I think Ishu was mentioning that as well. And so I see that as changing what we're doing a lot right now. Our experiences tend to be, they're location based, and you need some sort of either device deployment mechanism to access that. And so one of the things that as this ecosystem comes together and gets built that we're excited about, and I know our users are already excited about, is creating kind of this open ecosystem that you can move in and out. And really it's about discoverability of these experiences. So one of the first experiences we created in a neighborhood, we got like a 94% rate of people saying this is a great way to discover a new neighborhood. So I think but they had to know it was there, and they had to have in that situation, an app to access it. So kind of breaking down those barriers to discoverability and accessibility. But real quickly to your question there about brands. Yeah, so I think there's kind of two trends that actually, again, kind of fold into this. Is there's been an overall trend in marketing towards experiential marketing, and AR just like takes that and puts it on steroids, I think in a positive way, because you're able to meet consumers, where they're at, literally and figuratively, so they get to explore things on their own turf and terms. And then the other trend I think that we've been seeing is, web XR, which, is very, would be much more robust with 5G and really lends itself to that fluid type of approach and is very well suited to that kind of casual encounter and discoverability. So I think those are kind of the two trends that I see 5G really being crucial to. So.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thank you, Julia. Yeah, I will say I much prefer web-based experiences myself. If I don't have to download anything and it's a scan, click, I'm pretty happy. Not to say that I wouldn't download for something heftier like a Pokemon Go, for that heftier sort of experience, but for that light brand touch, I definitely want it to be as easy and smooth as possible. Which I want to kind of take all of the things that we've sort of learned today, and I want to hear your perspective, because we're talking about this ecosystem. We're talking about the development. It seems like everyone's pretty comfortable and confident about where we are in the mobile space. And Oppo is traditionally a mobile phone manufacturer, now is making this transition to smart glasses, or maybe not necessarily a transition, but also kind of incubating this smart glasses space. So how are you thinking about the phone, like the phone as sort of the major point of contact, and what obviously is very close to your heart, the smart glasses point of connection? How are you balancing these two things at Oppo and thinking about them going forward? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So I actually really like the panelist comment. Like, if, for example, in the future, like a lot of the heavy lifting, for example, rendering, perception, will be uploaded to the cloud. Then we can have a nice form factor, the ultimate form factor the consumers want, right? So that's actually a problem we faced. So we really wanted to have a nice looking glass that can do everything. But then in the past, we found out like it's still quite early. We have been developing AR glasses for 3 generations now. So in the beginning, we started with a standalone device, which does not rely on a phone. And then it has everything. It has 6-off and hand tracking, and can do some kind of the real AR experience. Then we find out the use case is still not there. Then in the 2nd generation, we started to rethink our strategy. So we bring the phone back into the picture. So we developed the split design, which we use a smartphone to act as the CPU, GPU, and also the interaction device, because it has a touch screen. But again, even for that, we still feel it's a little bit bulky. So the overall device is a little bit over 100 grams, and to have the user to wear that for maybe 4 hours or 8 hours a day, it's still a very big ask. Like you really have to have good user experience content to have a user to wear that for a really long period of time. So last year, we decided to go even smaller. So we developed our Air Glass, which acts as a companion to the phone. So it basically, we are thinking this as a 3rd screen after the watch, right? So you have a watch, you can access information quickly, but that's not quick enough. So we developed a near-eye display called Oppo Air Glass, which is a monocle, only one display, and it's a monochrome. So basically, our thinking is like this. So you wear your glasses normally. When you need to use that, when you need for certain applications, you can attach that to your frame. Then you can start to use, for example, you are bicycling, you can use the navigation. If you want to have a conversation with a foreigner, you can use the translation application for the Air glasses. When you are done for a certain, for example, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, walking, biking, or conversation, you can put it back to its charging dock, so that you can have a overall 10-hour like use time for the glasses. So I think the logic behind this is that we see we need really a balance between the form factor and the use case and the user experience. we believe right now we cannot really achieve a good balance if we want to go a full AR experience. So the form factor has to be something still not very comfortable, but for certain applications such as information display, navigation, we can reduce the form factor to a really a consumer grade, for example, 30 grams in total weight, and it's wireless, so that we can start to test the market and try to, for example, educate the users, the ordinary consumers, what AR is about, and then we can go from there to add more functionalities.
Excellent. Yeah, no, that's actually the first time I've really seen a sort of that detachable concept for what I mean, traditionally we saw as the Google Glass sort of head-mounted display model, but I love it that sort of you click it on, click it off, use it only when you need. So you're not wearing a pair of smart glasses all day when the form factor isn't quite ready yet. So very cool. Well, let's use that as an opportunity. So let's go talk to you, Jonathan. So, I mean, I'm not sure if you've been thinking about that click on, click off model specifically, but I know you're thinking a ton about how you can improve AR and VR glasses specifically. So I'd love to hear sort of, as you're thinking about this next form factor, what are some of the technologies you're working on to make that experience work and come to fruition? You're muted.
I also like that form factor, and I think there's great promise in those sorts of low impact devices going forward. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, we're working on the core materials, so really deep diving into the substrate itself to have very tight integration. This hasn't been done previously. And so, as I mentioned, embedding the antenna in the actual transparent ophthalmic lens with the other functions that I mentioned earlier in terms of the dimming and the eye tracking, all embedded in the substrate. You've really got to be down at the nano level to really embed these types of functionalities so that they're completely seamless and integrated. And I think this hasn't been available before in hitherto the last 20 years of AR development devices, which we've all seen that progression. So we're really at the cusp now of a transformation where we can have a new set of tools to really enable this tight integration that's required and operate at this sort of level. And so the analogy, I guess, is a bit like the chip industry. It's only until you get to a certain point of that total integration that you have something that is completely seamless like this. So whether it's antennas built in, eye tracking, as I mentioned, dimming, etc., all built into the transparent substrate. And so it requires metamaterial technologies really to be down at that level, providing the engineers with a new tool set to get the integration and get to the kind of Warby Parker form factor that we all want.
Awesome. Anyone want to chime in so far? I know we've been talking a little bit and let everyone kind of move from question to question, but would love to hear some feedback from each of you on what's been said. Anything sort of sticking out?
Yeah, I think that what I'm hearing from all of these folks here who are excelling in their field of like creating these new opportunities for the future is that it's incumbent upon us to be orchestrators of the ecosystem, because we can create the next generation networks that move the world forward. We can create the most amazing hardware that is in such a form factor and capabilities that no one's ever seen before. We can create the platforms for creation, like Sarah's doing. But if we're not actually going out there and educating the market of creators on what they can build, then it's not really going to be worth that much, right? And so I think it becomes this chicken and egg thing where we're building all the platforms, we're building all the capabilities, but builders don't necessarily know they can build on it, and users don't necessarily know that these experiences exist. So it really is incumbent upon us to begin that process, to put it out there and create things like partnerships where we can create some of these new experiences, and then use our built-in audiences to push that out to consumers and say, hey, did you know that the future is now? And you can begin experiencing things that you've never even seen before or heard of before. And I think it really is like, it's the people in this room right now. It's our job. And if we fail at it, it just means that we're going to be stuck with these 2D devices that we point and swipe at for the next 10 years. And I don't think anybody wants that. I think we want to bring the future about, but I think it really is on us to go out there and show people what that future could look like and let them then run with it.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and I would also just piggyback of what Josh has mentioned, right? So think about the concept of 5G and all the technologies that's behind 5G, such as edge compute and massive I/O, et cetera. I think how the telcos are thinking about it, that's differently perhaps from the 3G or the 4G world, is that this is going to be much more open, right, to the developers, to partners, because these technologies are no longer technologies that are hidden behind locked gates that only proprietary access can be enabled. So I think most carriers are approaching they're building 5G technology for sure, but thinking about how they're exposing the technology to partners and to developers is going to be much more open. Just look at what has happened in the cloud computing space with a lot of APIs being developed and released and exposed to individual developers. Most telcos are kind of thinking about the same, about exposing that network as a service model to the broader community, right? And that community is individual developers, small startups, large partners, to kind of jointly innovate and create something together. That's sort of the ecosystem that I think we're all trying to build. And I think it's only by collaborating and kind of working together with all these different pieces that we can put these pieces together and create something amazing for the consumers.
Yeah, I think if Web3 is teaching us anything, is that the democratization of data and platforms is going to be key to the future. I think the time for walled gardens is quickly coming to an end if we really want to build some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
And Sarah, so I know recently LightChip obviously is an enablement system, exactly what Josh is talking about. And recently an acquisition of Eighth Wall as well. I saw that recently is made public. So, I mean, that's all about enabling content creators. Anything you want to chime in there?
Yeah, I mean, I also want to say I completely agree with everything that Josh and Kevin just said. I think that's why we're all here. That's why we're teaming up together. It's why we can't go at it alone. I think it's why all of these companies are taking a partnership first approach to developing these spaces and getting people excited about what we can do. But absolutely, we just acquired Eighth Wall which is a leader in the web AR space and brand experiences. They're a fantastic company, an amazing team. We're really, really excited to have them on board. And I think what they're going to do is enable us to take a lot of those experiences that we've been building and working on and thinking about and aspiring to build and make them much more accessible and easy to turn on for regular consumers wherever they are, on their phone, on their browser, and kind of help us along the way towards all those like very high-minded visions that we've been talking about around AR headsets and brand new kinds of experiences. Those are all happening, but this is the kind of thing that we can do today, and that we can start giving users and players a taste of what that future is going to look like just through their browser on their phone.
Awesome. Please.
No, I was going to piggyback on that too, and the things that a lot of really great comments. I would say from the creator's perspective, who's kind of dealing with the end user and the client, our number one challenge is not technical. It is customer awareness and education. So that there's really a process you have to take people through. And what we find with AR in particular, in contrast to VR, I think a little bit more intuitive when you have a fully explicit environment, is AR. You can explain it till you're blue in the face, but until people get it in their hands and they try it, you have to use it to get it. And I think the biggest testimony to AR's use case is as soon as that happens, like literally the learning curve is about 30 seconds to a minute for people, so super fast learning curve, and their mind explodes. I'm sure we've all experienced this. And they start seeing use cases themselves everywhere, right? And right now their imagination exceeds the capabilities of the technology. But so that again speaks to 5G and this whole network ecosystem that we're trying to build, so enable that. But I think that really speaks a lot to when consumers do understand that the demand will be there. So there's that. And then I would say one thing on the front, again, just feedback for folks on the creator side, we've really seen this kind of almost explosion of tools for creators and platforms and everything in the last 12 months. And so it's becoming kind of this tidal wave of abilities, which is wonderful. And I think the ones that have been most successful for folks like us to use is when the platform creator or technology creator is willing to really engage with the creator community and help educate them and partner with them on using their platform or technology on a given project. So it's really by doing that we learn best. So anyway, that's just
awesome. Well, thank you so much, Julia. We are mostly at time, so I appreciate all of our panelists for taking the time to be here today. I do want to end with just one little thing. I'd love to hear from each of the panelists just one thing that you're excited about in your work or an example or something small in this coming year regarding 5G or AR tech. So I'll let everyone kind of think for a few seconds, but just one thing that you think is going to happen this year, right? Not 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, this year. Could be an example, a case study, doesn't even have to be in your own organization or partnership, but what are you excited about this year specifically in the technology? Who wants to start? All right, Sarah, let's do it. This year, what do we get to look forward to?
Unmuting myself would probably help. I am very excited, and I'm going to be a little self-serving here. I'm very excited for what LightChip is going to become in the near term. In fact, there are going to be some really amazing announcements that are coming out at our May Game Developer Summit. So I encourage everyone to take a look at it and watch. I believe it's May 24th. You do have to register. I think you may have to buy a ticket even. It's just that special. But there's going to be some really fantastic announcements. What I am really most excited about with that and with everything that we're doing is to start being able to talk about all of this fantastic work that everyone is doing at Niantic with people like yourselves. So lots to come.
Awesome. Who next?
I'll go next.
Go for it, Kevin.
So speaking from a telco perspective, one thing that I'm really excited about this year and many years beyond is the trend of network function, virtualization and moving a lot of the network functions to the cloud. I think that's going to be a huge trend in the industry overall, both from a cost reduction perspective as well as a speed to implementation perspective, but also making the cloud much more sustainable. Making the network much more sustainable. So that's one thing I think we're going to see a lot of carriers do, which will hopefully make a lot of these technologies more accessible to the broader partnership ecosystem. Awesome, thank you for that.
Yeah, building on that, I'm excited about the movement toward edge hosted services and just this realization of 5G as a communication medium between the edge and the users. And I think the more that developers begin seeing what the advantages are and building at the edge, and I think we can really begin to take advantage of this infrastructure and bring about all of these amazing ideas that all of the rock stars on this panel have mentioned and talked about. The back end infrastructure really is going to be critical. And I think folks like Kevin and myself and our companies in the industry are really working hard to move that forward, while at the same time, everyone else is focused on the hardware, the platforms, and all of this. And I think if everyone here in this room, if we all continue doing the amazing work that we're doing, then I think that it's going to be a great year for the developer community and ultimately for the users.
Awesome.
Yeah, for us at Meta, we go into full stream production this year with our roll-to-roll film and kitting that out in buildings and seeing the penetration of 5G in either hospitals, factories, or various other places that currently don't have that capability, and really collapsing the cost of 5G deployment. So this year is critical for that for us, and we're very much looking forward to demonstrate that and opportunities to further the proliferation of 5G in these environmental settings.
Taku, please. Yeah.
So from the material side, so many panelists says the ecosystem, but in the material side, ecosystem means the ecology, sustainability, circular economies. So last year and also this year, our company is developing some bio-based material, not using petrochemical-based material. Then we want to compare both 5G and XR's circular economy. Then want to contribute to, for example, Oppo or Meta's hardware devices. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Yeah, sustainability is not something we talked about too much this panel, but extremely important. So thank you for that. Julia, what are you excited about this year?
Okay, I'll go. Yeah, so I would say I've already seen a big shift in kind of ease of creation, particularly on the development side. So obviously LightChip being part of that, and, particularly in the social media space. So Snap, their Lens Studio has really advanced and is really rivaling Unity at this point. And so I think what I'm most excited is about these types of platforms are enabling us to create these experiences faster, cheaper, and easier. So the development load is not as heavy, and then that makes it, again, kind of helps with that consumer adoption, makes it a little easier. So
excellent, very good. And this year, last but not least.
Yeah, so what we are really excited about is to work with developers. So ever since we have launched our Air Glass, we got a lot of good feedbacks. A lot of startups, companies want to work with that to put some kind of applications onto the device. And early this month, when we were showing this at the MWC Mobile World Congress, a lot of the audience, they also had great ideas about what this device can do and what are other applications, for example, music applications or other content. I believe we have the internal feeling that we can do this device, right? The device will come earlier than the applications. We really need some good use cases, good applications, good content to be able to build up the entire AR ecosystem and to make this mainstream.
Thank you so much. And I just want to say a big round of applause for all of our panelists. I mean, we'll digitally clap. Thank you so much all for being here. It was a truly great conversation on 5G. We've had multiple conversations on 5G, but I thought the perspectives here really added to being able to see the various players that actually have to make this happen. So thank you very much. For those of you, we always have additional all nights on our All Live platform. Please do join in, and we look forward to seeing you next time.